All right, streaming. Got everything recording. I think we're just good to go. It's Monday, June 10th, 2019. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, breaking up all those Silicon Valley tech companies. All right, I'll start with mine because mine's way less exciting. So we both had a bridge-related injury over this past weekend.
Just blow up all the bridges.
Yeah.
Safety.
Mine is way less exciting, but also slightly...
Oh, because being injured is exciting.
Well, in the sense that mine, I was not injured that badly. However, it set a
I'm
precedent.
not injured that badly.
I was set for a precedent of something that I didn't really worry about, and now the next time I'm biking over the RFK or running over the RFK, I'm going to worry about it.
I'm always worried about the area with no fence because you could just fall right over into the East River. And
Yeah,
even if you survive that, which you won't, goddamn, you're in the fucking East River. You don't want to survive.
So I looked into that. No one has ever fallen off of that.
Good.
The center of gravity, if you're on a bike, you're not going to fall off the RFK. That is not the problem.
Good.
But so I was running.
It's still really weird because I think it's the only bridge that like doesn't have a big fence on the side.
I like it that way.
It's-
That's why I really like
you
running
like
over.
the dangerous bridge. You
No,
can
I
just
like
jump,
the beautiful view,
you
and
can
I don't
just
think
jump off easily.
I don't think it's that dangerous.
Well, clearly it isn't because no one's fallen. I'm sure people have jumped off.
People have jumped off of it, but no one. I could not find any record of someone accidentally falling off of that bridge at any point.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm running a half marathon, and basically the first third gets me to Randall's Island through Manhattan. The second third takes me.
You use the little tiny.
Yep, use a tiny
The
bridge.
tiny bridge.
The second third of this run takes me all the way around Randall's Island. I do a complete loop, including where like the governor's ball is.
You want to know the top part? Even and you like.
I turn left over that bridge and go all the way around the full outside of it.
Oh, if you don't go to the bottom,
Yeah, I do. I go all the way around it. Big circle.
so all the way back to the tiny bridge again.
Nearly. But instead of going all the way to the tiny bridge, then I get on the RFK.
So you didn't go in a complete loop because you didn't go to the bottom.
I mean, I could go a little further, but then the total run would be more than 13 miles.
Okay.
So, and then the last third of it is I go over the RFK and back down in Queens. So I'm running on the RFK, and I'm in that last stretch where you're like right next to the highway with
Where
that big
this-
cement wall.
Last chance should have been okay.
Yep. So I'm just running, and suddenly a rock flies out of nowhere from the highway and hits me in the shoulder really hard. Like to the point that I stumble like backward and stagger and almost fall over. And it takes me a minute to figure out what the fuck just happened.
Yep.
I'm just like, what? And I pull off my shirt. I've got this giant bruise on my shoulder. It's healed more now, but it hurt. And then I
Yeah,
look.
it's a flying rock.
Yeah,
You ever
I
get
look.
stoned?
Yeah, I look
You ever
down.
get stoned? No, you didn't get stoned because if you did, you'd be dead.
There's a rock.
You just got partial stoned.
There's a big hunk of rock that's like 3 centimeters in diameter, like this big honking rock.
That's not a big honking rock. That's a rock.
It's a rock at speed, though. That rock hit me at
Yeah,
speed enough to stagger
Yeah,
me.
I'm sure if I threw it at you, you would
Yeah.
be like, oh, fuck.
So-
And that's me throwing it at you with my weak ass arm.
Yeah, no, I do not want you to throw a rock of that size at me.
No, there's a reason people don't like it when they get rocks thrown at them.
If it was made out of pumice, I might allow it. Get hit with that balsa wood baseball bat.
No, even that would hurt.
But what I was thinking now, after I recovered, I was like, fuck this, and I started running again, I realized when I'm biking over that bridge, I'm going like 3 times faster than I run. I run at about 7 to 10 miles an hour when I'm doing one of these long runs, and I bike 12 to 25 miles an hour. If I'd been biking and that rock hit me, I definitely would have wiped out.
Probably.
So I don't know how common it is that rocks get flung onto this path, but now I'm going to be thinking about it every time I'm over there.
That's how it is.
Yep.
It's like I think about a tram track every time there is one in the street.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was biking. I woke up to my original plan was to go to the beach on the ferry, but since it's too cold in the water, just bike instead.
Yeah.
There's a boardwalk called Jenkins Boardwalk. I don't know if it's any good as a boardwalk, but
Where's that?
point something in New Jersey. I don't fucking know.
Oh, okay.
I don't even
see.
know if it's a good boardwalk. I just found it on Google Maps, and I said, there's a boardwalk. It has boardwalk shit as an arcade, and it probably has like a hot dog, so I could theoretically bike to it, eat the hot dog, and come back.
So you're doing
right?
the typical bike thing of pick an arbitrary waypoint as an excuse just to bike out there.
Right, but then I woke up too late, so I couldn't get on the ferry. Because you get on the ferry, if you're not getting on the ferry at 8, you're not getting on the ferry.
Yep.
It's not worth it. So I just said, I'll take it easy. I'll leave later. I'll just go to the regular beach that doesn't require any boating.
Over the Abadobido Bridge, perhaps.
Or
Yep.
the other one, the
Yeah,
veteran,
I know the one.
whatever. Anyway, so, I barely left the house. I'm only like 10, 15 minutes, not even 15 minutes away from the house. And going over the Pulaski Bridge.
Which has a nice new, like, 2-lane separated bikeway.
Right, so there's someone biking on the right-hand side, and they're going mad slow. And I'm feeling real good, so I go I see that no one's coming the other direction. There's like no one at all coming the other direction.
Yep.
So I go in the left lane.
The
right?
passing lane.
Right.
You're good.
Which is also the going the opposite direction.
I mean,
lane.
like most 2-lane highways, that's
right.
fine.
That's fine. And I start passing the two slow people. And just going. And then suddenly, like I didn't even like know what happened. It was like this rapid it's like I couldn't even tell what was going on. It was like a rapid series of still frames, like a fraction of a second, and then I was on the ground. And I was like, basically there was some sort of flappy cloth or like a sign or a banner of some. It was definitely fabricy.
Ooh, probably there illegally.
I don't know. It was tied to the railing between the bike path and the road path.
Okay,
And
yeah, I
think
can picture
it
that.
may have been some sort of sign that drivers were supposed to see as they were driving past.
Yeah.
But it was super old and tattered and had been destroyed over time and was going flappa flappa. But it was still attached with some amount of rope or something to the rail. And obviously if it had caught my attention, I would not have like just biked past it. I would have, right? But I guess the wind came at the exact evil moment.
It's probably been there for a long time. Like,
Who knows?
I've probably biked past this thing forever.
The wind came at the exact moment and went flappa flappa, and I don't know exactly what happened. I only have the evidence of the aftermath, which is that I was hit my right side of my body on the ground, but my left shifter was like torn, but
Ooh.
it was torn and completely broken inwards towards the inside of the bike, but it was the left shifter. So maybe what happened was
It caught that.
it grabbed it, and then my handlebar must have turned left, but then that doesn't make sense. I don't know how it broke in the direction it broke and how I fell in the direction I fell.
Yeah.
But whatever.
If only you had a GoPro, you could
I did have the
deconstruct
GoPro.
it.
It wasn't on, though. What do I want to film biking over this stupid bridge for?
We could have done a nice frame by frame of that's the
And
moment.
it would have been just a shot of like the front of, you wouldn't have seen enough with that angle. Anyway, the two cyclists who I passed were like, "Oh, are you okay?" And I stood up almost immediately, but my arm was all road rashed or whatever near my elbow zone.
Yep. I am thankful I have not had real road rash since I was in middle school.
I don't know.
But I have multiple times scraped all of the skin off both my knees, like
Well,
all of it.
Yeah, so I mean, if my bike was still not broken, like devastatingly broken, I would have fixed my arm and then biked.
Yep.
But I needed to go to
The bike doctor.
Instead of going to the beach, I had to go to the human doctor followed by the bike doctor. So I Googled for human, urgent cares, and there was one literally right on the Queen side of the Pulaski, like right fucking there. It was open. It had 4-point-something stars.
Oh, yeah, I know which one you're
It
talking
was
about.
like Forest something.
Yeah.
I went in there. That was like the best doctor I ever been to in the United States in my life.
The private urgent cares in New York are pretty good.
It cost $75, but that's not their fault. That's my insurance's copay for
Yeah.
I walked in. I'm like, "Do you take my insurance?" They're like, "Yes." I'm like, "Okay, I will sit here until you clean this wound."
So actually, funnily enough, I went to the doctor today.
Then I went to the
unrelatedly.
bike doctor, and the bike doctor was like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to leave this here.
Yeah.
We'll
Actually,
call you," and they didn't call me yet.
I was going to take my bike to the bike doctor today because I had to replace all the cassettes and everything. I just haven't done that yet. But it's raining, and I don't want to deal with that in the rain.
Mm.
I got to replace it, though. I can't use my upper gears. I have stripped that cassette.
Mm-hmm.
But I also went to the regular doctor to do something that now that I'm old, and I bring this up only because a lot of you have been listening to Geek Nights for a long time. We're pretty old at this point relative to most of you. Like we're in our upper 30s. So I went and got a skin cancer screening where they take a picture of your whole body and then they keep track of, hey, did that mole move? Did it get bigger? The things that you can't notice on your own. And my company's just doing it for free, so I can just go down and do it at work.
Yeah, I don't think I need. That's something I need to do like on my own.
Yeah, well, basically, from what I've gathered, you're supposed to get it maybe every 4 or 5 years, just from your regular doctor, not even a dermatologist.
Oh well, I mean, I just went to my regular doctor coincidentally like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
and they didn't say nothing about it. So
yeah, there is a history of melanoma in my family.
wow.
So I have extra reason to do it, like earlier than most people would. But she looked and she was like, "Yeah, there's nothing." My biggest mole, she was like, "That's not a big mole." That's all I was like, "This is my biggest mole." She's like, "That's not a big mole."
I've had this big mole over here for like my whole life and it hasn't grown. I think there's one on my back somewhere also hasn't grown. So.
Yep. But the one time I had,
they're not big compared to the ones I've seen.
But the one time I had a bike issue like yours, where something grabbed my bike and stopped it, causing me to have an accident, was one time mountain biking. I was coming around a corner on a hardtail, so I did like a sort of a drift around the corner where I locked up my rear wheel and spun it around, and then I started going again. And when I spun it around, I bumped into a log, and the log had like some sticks sticking out of it. And the sticks locked into my rear wheel. So I spun around the corner, bounced off the log, tried to go forward, and the bike said, "Nope, I'm staying here." And I just flew right over the handlebars, like instantly.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, people are always worried about getting hit by a car, and you probably should be because you will be dead.
Yeah.
But it's like every time I've hurt myself on my bike in my whole life, child and adult, is because I just fell on my own damn self.
Yep.
Just falling down from some stupid shit. And, people talk about helmets. Like, yeah, you get hit by a car. What's the helmet going to do? Your whole body's mangled even if you avoid head injury. And you know what? You're right. But you know what? Helmet's real good when you're just falling down on your own damn self.
Yep.
I luckily didn't hit my head at all this time. I just landed on the right side of my body.
Yep. But, the dirt fall happens. Like, especially if you clip in, like, sometimes clip messes up.
Well, I think it's if you get anyone who gets clips, every single person falls a few times and then they're good.
Yeah, that's how you learn to do clip riding.
And it's like, you should have a helmet. And helmet's real good when you just fall because your own damn stupid self, or because something reaches out and grabs you, some inanimate object, or a flying rock comes at you. Right?
I'll be thinking about those rocks now. So anyway, we got some news.
Wear a helmet when you run.
Yeah. Face mask.
Yeah.
Elbow pads.
Sure.
I'm thinking, so I'm rollerblading again, and previously all I use when I rollerblade is 2 like minimalist wrist guards and nothing else. I'll wear a helmet because I'm in my 30s, but I don't wear like elbow pads or any of that nonsense. Thinking about getting knee pads just because.
Old man knee.
Yeah, old man knee, and also road rash when you're in your early 20s.
And knee pads, even if you're not, gonna land on your knee or fall down,
they're just useful.
It's real nice to
you
have
want
a
to
knee
kneel
pad
to work on something.
if you got to kneel down.
Yeah.
You don't want to kneel down in the street with your knee, even if you're not moving at all.
Yep.
It just hurts. Streets are not soft.
Yep, but I feel like now that I'm in my late 30s,
knee pad, it's like, I can kneel down and do something, like tie my shoe.
Rather than 100% rely on my personal ability to catch myself with wrist guards and spin to a stop without my knees touching the ground, I think I should actually wear safety equipment. Partly because rollerblading in New York is a terrifying prospect until you get to like the West Side Bike Path or Central Park. So there's a bunch of news. The one we'll probably talk about first is Apple Day happened. There was a bunch of announcements.
Yeah, so this is the WWDC Apple Day, which is the developer-focused Apple announcements, right? Things for nerds, programming shit, stuff like that.
Yep. But the thing that they announced that we want to talk about the most.
Yeah, most of the stuff they talk about is like, updates to the OSs, right? New features, new things that developers are going to want to include in their apps and that sort of thing.
But they announced, and I was surprised they announced this, a new Mac Pro.
Yes.
You may recall.
A desktop tower Mac PC that is not a stupid trash can that can't be upgraded.
Yeah. So you may recall back in 2013, Apple released a Mac Pro that's just this black garbage can that was underpowered and cost twice what it should have and was literally worthless. So when this came out, I saw the announcement, didn't even read the specs, didn't even watch the announcement. I just saw people on Twitter talking about it. So I go to our forum and I say what I always say. I can build whatever that is as a PC for half the cost.
Yeah, and you can.
And
easily.
Yeah, so I got some pushback in the forum. People saying, oh, no, it does a lot more. You can't do it. And for a second, I thought, what if I'm wrong? I didn't look at the specs. Maybe they actually built a powerful computer. And they did another thing Apple has done in the past. They made a groundbreaking, amazing monitor, and then they made a kind of crappy computer to plug into it. That seems to be their go-to. The monitor they made is amazing.
It is maybe the best monitor that has ever existed in the history of Earth.
I mean, back when there weren't really 4K.
It's a lot of money, but what else are you gonna buy?
Yeah, like
what else? That's it. That's the only one.
In the CRT era, you could get like really high-res CRTs, but they had their own problems. But Apple has multiple times made like the next big leap in like real LCD or OLED or whatever monitors.
If you look at like the absolute best, most expensive Dell monitor, it like doesn't hold a candle to the Apple monitor.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, I guess they're okay charged. But here's the thing. They made the best monitor ever. And then they're like, okay, you want to mount it to like your fancy arm like I have in my desk, right?
Oh, it doesn't just have a VESA mount on the back?
You have to buy a $200 VESA mount adapter.
All right.
If you want to put it on a stand, it has its own, I guess you could get a VESA stand on your own, but they have a stand that hooks into its custom, mount thing. And that stand, which is, a fancy stand, but it has all the same features of the stands that I threw out that were attached to my Dell monitors.
Yeah.
They are charging $1,000 for this stand, and that is the joke of the century. That is the most Apple thing ever.
So I'll ignore the monitor because there isn't anything to compare it to yet. But the actual Mac Pro, we don't know the prices yet. One thing we do know, not really, we don't know the full prices.
The cheapest possible one is going to be like $6,000 or something?
The indication was the baseline one will be $6,000. That's like the default cost without the monitor.
Yeah.
So
the monitor is also going to be like $6,000.
As a result, my argument that I could build this as a PC, twice as powerful, half the cost, probably pretty accurate. Even better, the guy who does the guy who does all the production stuff for, where's the article I was going to link to? I found an article on The Verge, and it has this pro guy who is like, oh yeah, why would I switch to this? I could build something twice as powerful as a PC. Like, he said exactly what I said.
That's pretty much, Apple's thing is like, yeah, they charge like this, high margin premium thing, right? It's like, and that sort of works when it comes to some of their lower end products, because even though they're charging, say, a little bit more than the competition, it's like, okay, I pay what for the Mac laptop, right? I pay an extra $500, but look what I get.
Yeah, that hardware is great.
But when you look at them as you go higher and higher end, right, I guess they must be keeping their margin percentages the same. I don't know what logic they use to do pricing, but it's like, oh, to upgrade the RAM from 32 gigs to 64 gigs will cost you $400. For $400, I can buy like a 1080.
Dude,
for $400, I could buy how much total RAM in a PC? Like 128 gigs?
So I did some breakdowns because they haven't released all the pricing yet, but I looked at the baseline because everyone's talking about this, looking at the high-end specs. Because if you get the maxed out one, it's got a 28-core Xeon. Yep. Running at a pretty low clock speed, by the way. More cores means slower clocks. You can turbo it, but I don't want to get into that. There's a lot going on there. Right. But the 28-core server thing, that's not going to be $6,000.
No.
And the bottom one, the baseline one in this $6,000 PC is an 8-core Xeon that runs at a significantly slower clock speed than the 4-core that I got in my computer. So it's 8 cores. You could buy that exact chip. Actually, you can buy that chip slightly faster than the one that's in the Mac for $1,200.
Mm-hmm.
The RAM, 32 gigs of ECC RAM.
Well, Apple is always crazy about always using ECC RAM.
ECC RAM ain't even expensive anymore. $160, 32 gigs, one module.
That's the number one place that Apple overcharges is the RAM zone.
Yeah.
They always overcharge for RAM and storage and all that stuff.
Oh, the worst part, and I don't even know what they're doing here.
But my point is that, yes, Apple overcharges, but when it comes to the high end like this, the overcharge ends up being many, many thousands of dollars extra. It's not like, oh, $500 extra, but you get a nice Apple laptop with a really nice screen in it. Or, oh, you paid $50 more than the Android phone, but you got an iPhone. It's like, no, if you want this, instead of the equivalent PC that has an Nvidia, board in it that's better, you're going to have to pay $5,000 extra, $6,000 extra, right? So even though maybe the margin percentages might be the same because, the really fast PC is still 2,000 or 3,000, it's like you're paying the sum total premium dollars you are paying is absolutely insane and unreasonable and pointless.
I also noticed something. The storage is SSDs, and the baseline is 256 gigs, which is nothing.
Nothing.
They say that it says, quote, up to 2.6 gigabit per second sequential read. That sounds like SATA 2. That doesn't sound like PCIe or SATA 3.
Yeah, it's not NVMe.
Yeah.
Like, why does it? It even says it's like two terabyte for SSDs to make a 4 terabyte SSD. Shouldn't you be using like M2 drives, like MVNO, whatever?
Well, M2 is actually just the form factor. M2 could be a SATA 3 or a PCIe.
NVMe or whatever the hell the thing is called. I forgot since I built my PC.
Basically,
what the acronym is.
You want your fast hard drives to basically be PCI Express cards that happen to have hard drives on them. Like, that's really what you want. This does not look like that.
No, and you think it's so crazy pro in every other category. Wouldn't the storage also be crazy pro? Shouldn't it be like 2 8 terabyte, NVMe's stuck in there or something ridiculous?
I assume that they're going for the idea that no one's actually working from local files in an environment where you'd use this, that you're using the shared Thunderbolt whatever.
Well, that's the thing is like Apple loves external attached things, but it's like, no, this is the case. This is the tower PC that you're actually allowing people to open it. They don't want shit on the desk.
Yep.
We don't want an external pile of hard drives. We want to put like 10 hard drives in this box, but I don't think there's room in that box for any hard drives.
Now, it's got a lot of pro features, but until they release the actual
I think most
price
of the
sheet,
expansion they're letting you do is PCI slots, which is really reminiscent of the Apple IIgs.
So one of argument people are making.
It doesn't seem like they're letting you do expansion in any other areas.
They do have the thing this thing has going for it is that it has a lot of PCIe lanes and it has a lot of support for like custom supercharged rendering chips.
Yeah, they're
and
making
things.
special stuff. So they made this special card you can get that will do transcoding for you. So if you're editing video, you won't have to make proxy files. You could like have 2 or 3 or some number of 8K files and play them in real time, no problem, without having to make proxies first because there's such a super fast dedicated transcoder. I don't know. I'm sure a similar product must exist for the PC that you could stick in, and if not, you could probably still get a PC fast enough.
So to give you a reference point, obviously my pipeline is simpler than a Hollywood pipeline.
Yeah.
But when I'm editing 4K video, I usually have 2 4K sources at very high bit rates, and I can play them simultaneously, even 4 of them together in a multi-camera view without using proxies. Mm-hmm. And that includes
and you have
things,
a 1080.
And
one 1080.
1080. And that includes
no special transcoding thing.
That includes non-pre-rendered color correction.
No multiple ATI cards.
That includes color correction
module.
And stabilization, and all sorts of transforms. What it does not include, to be fair, is color grading or anything like that. That's stuff I would do in post. Mm-hmm. Or I would do destructively later, or I'd do it in the render pass at the end. But I'm not saying my PC is the equivalent of this thing.
Clearly not,
but this thing
price the dollar as usual. It's weird to say this is news. It's just this business as usual, right? The dollar per performance ratio of the Apple computer is absolutely ridiculous. You're like getting almost no computing power per dollar, whereas with a PC you get a lot of computing power per dollar. Unless you're just like don't give a shit about money, there's no reason to buy, or you just really, really, really need OS X and you can afford it.
Like if somehow you're on like an Apple-centric pipeline.
I don't know.
I guess what I would say is there are
limited numbers of people who would need this.
There are probably studios and pipelines where this hardware would be really nice to use in that pipeline, but there's a lot of pipelines that rely on software that's really only written to work with Nvidia high-end cards.
Well, that's mostly when you're not talking about most of their demos were like art related, right? Rendering, and it's like for those things, I guess it doesn't matter too much if you have Nvidia or ATI.
Yeah, but if you're doing like 3D rendering,
well, no, I think it's mostly the Nvidia situation is people who are doing CUDA stuff.
not just CUDA. Nvidia has higher end chips that are not the 1080 type stuff we use.
Right, but the point is the CUDA people cannot go with the AMD at all. It's like a deal breaker.
Yep.
Right? So if you're doing any CUDA-based thing, it's like, well, not doing it on this. You're going to buy an Nvidia card.
So Apple they say that some of the companies like let's see, blah blah blah. Yeah, a bunch of the companies that have Nvidia only stuff have said they will rewrite those apps to work with AMD. Many people are skeptical of that claim.
Because how many customers are you doing this for?
I mean, I remember a long time ago when a bunch
machine?
of game companies went way out of their way to make sure their games worked on both Windows and Macs, because Macs finally had video cards, and none of those games work anymore, and no one supports Macs anymore.
Go back and watch the Steve Jobs, John Carmack, Doom 3 keynote, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Go back and watch it.
I remember that. So, got some other news?
We do have another news. So, basically, what's happening here is Chrome is changing itself in such a way that ad block extensions will no longer be able to ad block to the extent that they previously ad blocked. And thus, if you use Chrome, even if you're using all the best ad block biz, unless you're like a special business client who is paying for like a special Chrome for your company or some ridiculous, I didn't even know that was a thing until recently, that, removes a lot of the limits on the kinds of extensions you can make, because if you're a company, you presumably have like custom Chrome extensions that, whatever. So basically everyone listening to this,
Yep.
your ad block is not going to work too well in Chrome, so switch to Firefox, which I've been using Firefox for a long time.
Yep, I've been using Chrome.
I pretty much only use Chrome at work for work.
Yep, I'm working towards swapping all my things into Firefox. I have both. I've been using Chrome for a long time, and I haven't had this problem yet. My ad block is still working effectively.
Yeah, I mean, I have Pi-hole and stuff that also does ad block by other techniques.
Yeah, but it's part of this news just shows that no browser will last forever and win the so-called browser war, because the people who run these browsers will always fuck it up somehow. And just a rotation of who fucks it up. So right now, the landscape has shifted. There was a while where Chrome was the super fast browser and everything else had problems. Now we're getting back into an era where Firefox is probably the browser that has the best interest of the actual user of the browser at heart, as opposed to Google, which is conflicted because Google relies on ad revenue. This will get into our main topic for the show.
Well, that's the reason, why did Google make Chrome in the first place? It's like, because they can't, their business is the web. They can't let someone else, right, be controlling, right? Imagine if there was no Chrome and there was only Firefox. The entire business of Google would be dependent on things Mozilla does. Mozilla would have them over a barrel because everyone's using Firefox, right?
So Google was doing
Microsoft would have them over a barrel because they're controlling, the web.
So Google was doing the right thing.
Google needed to have control there, otherwise their business is just boned.
Yeah, they were doing the right thing. There's got to be competition, like multiple browsers. No one has a monopoly on the most important app on your computer. But at the same time, all these companies need to make money and have various interests and various monetary streams that they have to protect. And Google is going to start protecting their stream more and more, and they're going to probably prevent us from blocking ads in the long run. So we got to switch to Firefox. Firefox seems to have gotten ahead of this in that Firefox has really been branding themselves more and more as the secure private browser.
A lot of their stuff is all their iOS apps are privacy related apps and stuff.
Yep. Because you don't want to trust any of those weird browsers made by the crazy people.
No.
Yeah. So I feel like in our foreseeable future, smart people will all be switching to Firefox, and Firefox will have the most
I've been
complete...
using it. I only went to Chrome for a limited time.
Yep. I haven't moved yet because, like I said, my ad block still works.
I've been Firefox since, it was Phoenix.
I remember using Phoenix and
right.
Firebird for a brief time.
That's right.
So keep an eye out. If you start seeing ads in Chrome, that's your signal to go move to Firefox.
Also, the correct ad block extension is micro block origin. It's not the word micro. It's the little Greek
it's all
letter.
lowercase u with or without the little thing.
Lowercase mu thingy, yeah.
Do not download random ad blocker because ad blockers can inspect your content you better trust the people who made that ad blocker or you're in trouble.
You can also set a pie hole on your home network, and you can even VPN into your home network to get behind your pie hole when you're not home.
Yep, the most important thing is however you do it, you gotta block ads. Ads are a security threat, and they're also violence against your brain, shall we say.
Block all ads everywhere, always.
If I could
no
install...
exceptions. No such thing as a good ad. I got to support someone. No, fuck you. Block all ads everywhere, always.
If I could install an extension in my glasses that just blanked out any advertisements I saw in the real world, I would do it.
I would pay for that.
All right.
Then I just see the word obey.
But anyway, things of the day. So when I first got a PC and I started getting PC games, I did not know piracy was a thing. People in school would just hand me floppy disks and be like, oh, you got a computer? Here, check out this racing game.
Yeah, I didn't really, it's like I didn't quite understand the concept. Like, it's like, oh, you have software, you can copy it and you give it to someone else, right?
Yep.
It's like, this is what software is just the thing. I didn't really even understand all the shareware and then like typing codes, like using the star control chart to get the game. And then I finally understood, oh, I see what's going on here. Someone made this game. They want to charge me for it.
Yep.
I get it.
But I learned pretty quick, and then I got involved in the Wares scene because I
have no fucking money when I'm a little kid.
Yep.
There was no Steam.
So I had a cracked copy. It was
hard. It was even hard to go to the game store.
I had Stunts 40 Racing cracked by Killfit. Most of my games had screens in the beginning that showed the cracking group that cracked the game so you could play it without needing the manual.
Oh, I just did other means.
Yeah, I knew people.
Like, hey, give me the Doom WAD file so I don't have to use the shareware one.
Yep. It's crazy that
Like
there
that.
was... Like, the internet was so different back then. That was an era when I would literally go to someone's BBS, download an EXE file, trust it, run it, and it didn't have any malware.
Well, but also it's like, what was there on your computer?
Yep.
Oh, no, you got my school paper.
Yep. Most malware back then
you stole my copy of Chips Challenge.
Oh, you deleted my hard drive. I guess I lost 500 megabytes of data and have to reinstall Windows 3.11. Oh, no.
Don't even have an MP3 collection.
So, there was copy protection on a lot of these games, but one game in particular, this game called Dungeon Master. And if you look at this video, you'll know what game this is. You've seen this game. It was even ported to the NES.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, how it was ported to the NES, which is talked about in my Thing of the Day video, is pretty crazy because it has raster images, which is not how the NES renders video.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this crazy chip on it. It was hard to emulate. But this video goes into detail on how some of the most effective copy protection to prevent pirates from stealing games in the floppy era worked. And usually it would work in such a way to where people who pirated the game and cracked it would think they had succeeded, but after you played the game for a certain amount of time, the game would just stop working.
Right. For example, in a dungeony game like this, sometimes you'd get like caught in a maze that there was no escape from.
Yep. Or like doors just stop working. You can't open doors anymore. Now the game's broken.
Yep.
And basically the company would wait for people to open queries and be like, hey, the game crashed and I got this error. And then the company could say, yeah, because you fucking pirated our game, you piece of shit.
That's right.
So you can watch the video.
The thing is, a lot of people pirated not even realizing piracy was a thing, right?
Yeah,
So-
but then they'd learn
Yeah, sure
and
would.
grow as people. But I'll link to the actual like detailed technical documentation too, because this shit is fascinating. The way this copy protection worked is that the discs, the floppy disks that they manufactured, some of the bits were fuzzy, and they would return a 1 or a 0 randomly.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way to copy that.
Mm-hmm.
And the game would periodically check to see what's the value of this one bit. And if it doesn't ever change, then they know it's a pirated copy of the game.
Uh-huh. What if you just get unlucky and the fuzziness stays static for a little bit?
It checks over time. It was a slow burn.
Okay.
And the video and the article go into a lot of detail. It's fascinating.
I never had a false positive.
Not that I could see.
Okay.
So what do you got?
What do I have? I forget.
You have
All right,
the cup.
the Lycurgus Cup. So this guy is some kind of historian or archaeologist or some kind of genius dude, and he's giving this lecture, and it's a real disappointing thing of the day because this is clearly a long-ass lecture, and the video is only 3 minutes. I don't know where the hell to get the rest of the lecture. Please find it and send it to me urgently. Sorry for the disappointing thing of the day, but what he talks about at the beginning of his lecture is the Lycurgus Cup which is some cup from Sparta or something. But the cup has some sort of amazing property where, like, it's like it changes color. It's like in the different light or heat condition. It's like holy shit. And for a long time, people basically didn't believe that, like, this was like, oh, the ancient people didn't have technology for that. No way. But no, as it turns out, they totally did, and we lost that technology for like centuries before we figured out how they did it, and then we're able to do it ourselves. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, check this out, and I want to check out. What's the guy's name? Does it say his name there?
Couldn't be. No.
Isn't that his name right there in the
Samo Berger? I guess it's his channel.
Yeah.
Yep, it's Samo Berger.
Yeah. So whatever he is, Samo Berger. This
sociologist and the founder of Bismarck Analysis, a firm that analyzes institutions and something.
Whatever. This dude is like the most amazing. Like, he could replace every history professor on Earth, probably. It's like in less than the 3 minutes, he already captivated me with his lecture. I just want to go and subscribe to his podcast and YouTube channel, which I already did subscribe to that.
So, in the meta moment, the GeekNights Book Club book, Pages of Pain.
Painful Pages.
By Troy Denning.
I have endured all the pain of the pages.
Yep.
There are no
I was
more
able
pain.
to fully express the extent of this novel with simply 4 images from King of the Hill.
Okay.
And we're going to do a show on it next Thursday. Stay tuned. We're going to talk about this book. We're going to assume you read it. And I think it might be the best written, officially licensed Dungeons & Dragons novel.
I mean, so they say Thrawn is the best written, officially licensed Star Wars novels.
I feel like this is the best one.
That doesn't mean it's any good.
Yeah, but I'm saying...
It's the least smelly poop.
All I'm saying is that this one feels like it did something different compared to every other garbage D&D book.
That is true. The other ones are probably all just like,
the other ones are,
we beat the evil wizard. Ta-da!
Yep. I am an elf, and I'm doing elf stuff, and plot happens, and look, there's Elminster, and Kelvin Blackstaff, Drizzt Do'Urden. Meanwhile, this one's like, this guy's on an adventure, and then 2 minutes later, it's like, well, I swapped a foot for a hand, and I'm turning to goop, and we're in trouble here.
I think the turn to goop came first.
Yeah, that came first. That led to...
Anyway.
The amount of times limbs get swapped in this book is several more than you would expect.
Yeah.
Like, you think, oh, that was a thing, and then it happens again, and you think, oh, I guess that happened twice. And then it keeps happening. You're just like, what? So, yeah, we're going to talk about that book. Otherwise, we have no conventions till PAX West. It's
on Labor Day weekend in Seattle. Tickets already went on sale.
Yep, we already booked our flights.
I booked flights too. I got hotels. There are some tickets left on sale.
Well, there are tickets for every day but Saturday on sale.
Did you check just now?
No, I checked a while ago.
Oh, okay.
Maybe there's fewer days now.
It's West up, yeah.
Oh, Friday. Yeah, no, we're good. Sunday is almost sold out.
Okay, but
Friday,
you can
Monday,
go Friday
totally
or
open.
Monday, no problem. Friday's actually a really good deal. Unlike Monday, it's a full day of PAX. Monday is a shortened day of PAX.
And you get the keynote. You get the Q&A.
The keynote on Friday and Q&A. Monday, you also get an Omegathon finale, even though PAX is shorter. So
but you don't get like a concert or anything.
No, but I don't think you get a concert on Friday either.
Yeah. Also, if you were trying to submit panels to PAX, they are online now. The panel submission site was actually down for a while.
It is up again.
It was just like giving an error. It was weird, but they fixed it, whatever the problem was.
All right.
So go out, submit your panels to PAX. And I think we should get right into it. So, here, I'll split this off into its own thing. So this problem's only getting worse, and we got to do something about it.
Well, this all started really back in the day with the Microsoft antitrust suit, right? And that suit was all about, hey, Microsoft, you have a monopoly on computer operating systems. Windows is dominated, and you are including Internet Explorer with Windows, right? And you are using your monopoly power of operating systems to stranglehold the market on web browsers. These are the days when you can still go to the store and like buy Netscape Navigator on disk or something.
Yep.
Right? And, you know, that is against antitrust law. And the Justice Department went after Microsoft, and there was all kinds of business going on there. But since then, even though tech companies and even worse, telcos like NBC, Comcast, Universal, whatever the fuck it is now. How many companies are in there? And Disney buy everything in the universe. Disney own all of media entertainment company.
I mean, just say the words AOL Time Warner. Just rolls off the tongue.
Right. All these mega mergers going on. But the tech companies, Google, Amazon, Facebook, to some extent Netflix.
Yeah.
Google, Amazon.
Netflix has
Microsoft.
plenty of competition, though.
Yeah, kind of. But anyway, the point is these mega companies, right, are controlling huge aspects of society, right, in a very few entities, much like it's really not too different from the old train companies and oil companies that started in antitrust law in the first place.
There is one thing that's very different, though, in that a lot of the traditional trust busting was around a company that controls a sector absolutely, either vertically or horizontally, depending on how you're looking at it, as opposed to here, where we have these megacorps that do a large number of completely unrelated things, and they wield power by the fact that they control these vastly disparate areas. I mean, the same company I just bought some new deodorant from online also hosts a bunch of my web infrastructure.
Whoa.
Like, that's weird, and we've normalized it.
Yeah, you have it. It's like the Microsoft situation was like, hey, that's the reason I brought it up, is because it's like, hey, you own this monopoly on operating systems, and you're using it to weasel your way into web browsers, which we don't think of as being too far away. They're both computer software, right? But it's like, you have a monopoly on book selling, and you're using it to weasel your way into a monopoly on grocery selling and clothing selling and selling everything, and also hosting everything, and also shipping and receiving logistics and like
I guess these companies are becoming the literal megacorps from all cyberpunk dystopias.
Ebook readers, and it's like...
And on one hand, what's really interesting is that one of the measures of antitrust stuff back in the day was not just that they're a monopoly, but that they are abusing their status as a monopoly and harming, like, the consumers. But actually, like Amazon is an example, they've mostly been helping consumers, and they've been harming the rest of society.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it's like
as a person, I don't want to have to go to any store but Amazon. I just want to go to Amazon. I don't want to have to look at 10 different sites to buy things.
Right. It's like, I can go without Uber, because I hate the Uber, just as I hate the Amazon. I can't really go without the Amazon, even though I'd like to, but I can go without the Uber because I don't.
But it's even worse. I prefer the Amazon.
But if you go with the Uber, it's like, yeah, it's real cheap to get around, way cheaper than the other way, right? It's like, it's really good for the user. It's really good for the company. It's really bad for, in Uber's case, the driver. In Amazon's place, all the third-party sellers and everyone else in the whole society.
Yep. But look at even something simple like video games. On one hand, we want there to be multiple storefronts for games, so no one has a monopoly. On the other hand, there are some multiple storefronts, but I still only buy games on Steam, and if I can't buy it on Steam, I think about it and decide if I even bother buying it because I don't want to have to deal with multiple stores.
Well, this is a thing that's, if you're looking at just companies, it's like, yeah, we don't want to have, few large companies and have lots of small companies. That's just better. But with technology, just the nature of computers, there is benefit to conglomeration, aggregation, unification, right? All these things, there are real benefits to those things, right? It's like Google. Google makes Gmail. They also make Google Docs. They also make your Android phone.
Yep.
Right? So if Google makes all those three things and then they integrates them all really nicely, that provides the fact that they're all provided by the same person, made by the same person, company, whatever, provides a benefit to the end user. If you had to get choose a phone from 5 different phone operating systems, and even if all of them were good, it's like, well, okay, well, now you got to choose your email provider. So I got to choose, I want to choose the one that works best on my phone. And it's like, there's 20 of them. There's 20 things just like Gmail. And then there's 30 different web browsers. And then you're a developer trying to make a web page, and people are using 30 different web browsers. It's like, it becomes, from a technological standpoint, just like this sort of hellscape of too many choices. This is why Linux on the desktop couldn't grab on. There's too many distros.
Yep.
Right? It's why Android is has people not updating. There's too many Android versions going around, right? With iOS, it's just like, yeah, everyone updates and has the newest one. There's one version, mostly.
So, what exactly do we do about this? Do we just break them up? And if so, how? Like, this is a really thorny issue for a lot of reasons. Because on one hand, these monopolies or these pseudo-monopolies wield undue power. But on the other hand, many of them have wielded that power for neutral or slightly positive outcomes.
On occasion.
Yeah.
Right? Just because, a bad, evil serial killer saves one baby and then kills 10 people.
But what if he saves 10 people and kills one person to do that?
I'm just saying.
Where's the line?
You get the idea.
Which trolley should we be in?
You're not a saint just because you did some good stuff, is my point.
Yeah.
Right? But so one thing I think we can do is, basically everything comes down to the government has to do something about it because no one else is going to do anything
Yes,
about
because
it.
because the
right?
fundamental...
Look at, like, stupid Zuckerberg owns most of Facebook, so no one can tell him what to do. But like, it was like some ridiculous percent of the investors, not a percent of the shares, because obviously then something would have happened if it was more than 50% of the shares voted. But like some ridiculous percentage of the investors who didn't own a majority of the shares voted to kick Zuckerberg's ass out on the street, and stop doing evil privacy violating garbage. But they didn't have enough shares, so nothing happened, right? But yeah, so in the absence of shareholders being able to do anything, the government has to do something. What should the government do? Well, the easy things I think they should do is enforce some sort of interoperability situations, right? So if you look back in the day, Microsoft had like a monopoly on Office, but now there's like other things can read and write doc files. So it's like, you can...
So how about, like, for gaming? Game launchers should have some sort of cross-launch interoperability if they're above a certain size.
With OS X, you can use the iWork Pages app, or, you can open up PowerPoints in, what do they call it? Keynote, right? Keynote and PowerPoint are pretty good interoperability-wise, right? So, like, and it's like... Once, that wasn't done by the government. That was just OS X Apple working really hard to get PowerPoints to load nicely in Keynote. And then once they do, people can start using Keynote. And now, the Microsoft PowerPoint needs to sort of make, not break that, right?
I think we need something more complex and subtle, with the caveat that I think there's a danger here as well. But I think we more need to break them up based on... One company should not be in too many sectors at the same time.
I think that's the next thing, right? But I think the
Amazon storefront should not be the same company as Amazon Web Services.
Yep.
One
company, I think there should be a law. I don't know how to word the law because I'm not a lawyer, right? But clearly it's a concept that people conceive of in their brain. Therefore, it should be possible to make a law out of it.
Here's the complication, though.
Is that you should be able to make a law that says, one company must do one and only one thing. You cannot even have... I think it should... And I'm okay even... You would bring up the example of you have the Subway and Carvel in the same little building. I think you shouldn't even allow that. Fuck that. Yeah, get your Subway and your Carvel next to each other, but not the same company. You got to register them separately. They go out of business separately. You can sell them separately, right? I'm okay with even being picky about that if it means we can get a law that says one company does one fucking thing.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like it'd be a little broader than that. I think it has to be one sector.
Get rid of your Cracker Barrel with your restaurant and your gift shop. No.
Yeah, I think
separate
that
gift shop
fine.
and restaurant.
I'm not looking that drastic. The thing I worry about more is that one of the benefits of these structures of being in multiple sectors is that a company can weather a downturn in sector A with the profits from sector B and continue doing research and development in things that aren't directly profitable, because due to fiduciary duty and the fact that these companies are beholden to their shareholders, they're not allowed to lose money. They're not allowed to do sometimes strategic long-term thinking things, but by having money from multiple sectors, there's a lot more flexibility there.
Mm-hmm.
That is, we don't have a solution for that unless we also change the nature of the relationship between shareholders and companies.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If one company can only do one thing, right? If Netflix wants to start doing, I don't know,
groceries,
if they're forced to make an actual completely separate company with a separate board and a separate everything, and the grocery business doesn't do well, then that has to go out of business. They can't prop it up with their Netflix money, right?
Well, because that's a big part of the problem. Look at Uber. Uber is just subsidizing these drivers to keep the prices low with their venture capital money. They're not profitable.
Nope.
They never will be, probably.
Nope.
And frankly, the only thing Uber, like, I don't even care that Uber.
Well, that's the thing, is because when people do startups, they're not trying to be profitable. They're just trying to make a product that gets enough users that someone else will buy them. Mostly, the people buying them are those big tech companies, the Google, Microsoft, Apple, right? Apple buys companies like constantly, right? And
dude, there's just a big like $13 billion merger of some like integration companies a while ago. Like,
right, but I'm saying is if you had antitrust, it would be like, every single one of those purchases of companies, you'd be like, no, you're giant Apple. You can't buy that. It's like, don't allow this buying to happen. Don't allow the merging. It's like, you're enormous. No, you cannot take over another fucking thing. No, you can't buy that Maps company, Google. It's competing with your Google Map. That's not allowed. Stop it. And then what would happen is, some companies that are profitable would stick around and compete. And all these tiny startups, right? They wouldn't be able to have this business plan of burn venture capital money, make an unprofitable business just trying to get users so that someone will buy you, because the government won't allow anyone to buy you. You're going to have to you either make a profitable company or you make no company. And if all those companies basically suddenly have to actually be profitable, they probably won't even exist in the first place because you won't get those venture capital people investing in them.
Now, I think these sectors can be pretty broad. Like, I feel like Amazon's web services should be split from Amazon's selling business.
Yes.
I'm not that clear on whether or not Amazon's movies and video, like, I feel like that does fit within the purview of I am a storefront.
It's really...
I feel like, this is like, where's the line? Should Amazon be allowed to have its own primary production studio to make movies and TV shows to sell on their storefront platform?
I mean, there are some blurry lines like that.
But like that one's
and
blurry.
You could debate them into your...
But web services and storefront,
it's a little
clear.
less
Like there is a pretty clear line there.
But I have no problem just erring on the side of split it. Even if you're not sure, split it, right? Because it's what's the harm in splitting it? If there's harm in letting it stay together, right? If you let things stay together and you're not sure, it's like someone could be nefarious. But if you split it and you weren't sure, what's the worst case? One of the halves goes out of business. All right, no harm done. Sounds good to me.
All right, so
what's
here's
the
the
harm
question:
then?
Where do we split Apple up? Like, what are the companies that come out of an Apple split? Because I don't think Apple's monopoly. I don't think Apple's even like. I'm not like. There's no good line to split them up on.
Well, so
and they're kind of
Apple-
a niche player.
Right. So Apple isn't necessarily a monopoly.
They're a powerful and wealthy company that.
Well, they're the most biggest company on earth.
Well, this is
right?
why it's not necessarily antitrust. Apple's problem is that they have too much cash.
Well, that's a separate issue, right? But so first of all, with Apple, right, you have this situation where there are certain parts of the business, right, that don't directly make money. OS X is free, basically.
Yep.
Right? So it's like
splitting off OS X would destroy it instantly.
If you split them off software and hardware, it's like, well, if there's like a company that only made Apple hardware, it's like, well, they would Windows, they would I guess they would work hard to make sure Windows ran on that hardware because or else no one would buy it.
Well, like here's another example, Microsoft.
It's like
I'm actually glad Microsoft is making like their own Surface computers because I don't trust third parties to not put malware and garbage on Windows computers.
Well,
if I need a laptop.
Microsoft could, which would probably be the opposite of antitrust. That goes back to my point about the benefit of technology, specifically of unification and fewer players, is and having strong people, right, monopolists, is because Microsoft could be, having an OS monopoly could say, you want to pre-install Windows on your PC, Dell, HP, Sony, whoever, then Lenovo, then you are not allowed to install anything else. You must install pure Windows. I don't know why they've never done this. Just don't allow these third parties to install garbage pre-installed.
I'll bet the reason they haven't done it is because there are a lot of people who would go after them for antitrust if they did that.
Yeah, but antitrust has not been enforced basically since 20 years. It's been a completely ignored law. So why wouldn't you push it?
It's not so much
of course,
that it's
Microsoft
been ignored.
were the last victims.
It's that like American antitrust law is complex enough to where everyone's kind of following the rules because it mostly focused on. Now, I'm just paraphrasing a lawyer I was talking to a while ago. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an expert on this, and I'm trying to skim this Wikipedia article.
It is too complicated a thing of like when it's like it's one of those things where it's like I'm not technically a monopoly. You know, and that company has an army of lawyers, and they're not technically a monopoly, but they're still a company that is too large and too powerful. That is perhaps more powerful in the government in some ways, and if they are not technically a monopoly by the current antitrust law, then the antitrust law should be updated so that they are.
But basically it covers, are they doing harm? Are they restricting the market? Like, there's all these things that make you qualify for these antitrust rules, and none of these big tech companies are doing any of these things. And in fact, some of the things they're disallowed from doing would probably be to the net benefit of society. So it gets really complex. It's not really antitrust, it's a new thing. Because fundamentally, the real problem is just that no single entity should have that much power.
Right. It's
except a government.
Way back, we talked about too big to fail with like the banks, which should also be broken up probably into much smaller banks. And they talk about too big to fail, right? It's like, oh no, if these fail, then our society has failed. Well, it's like, then that too big to fail is too big to exist.
Well, no, too big to fail is...
It doesn't matter.
I got a better...
It doesn't matter how
too big
good
to
your
fail.
business is or how many rules you're following. If no company should be allowed to be that big, period. Even if you're only doing one thing, you're just a bank.
Scott, here's the line.
If your bank gets too big, nope, sorry, now you're two banks.
Too big to fail doesn't necessarily mean now you're smaller. Too big to fail means that's something the government should be doing for the benefit of society, as opposed to a private company doing it for profit.
Right, and that goes back to, I talked about, having interoperability.
Can you tell I'm kind of getting sick of capitalism as I get older?
I talk about interoperability as one of the possible solutions, right? Force the tech companies, like force Apple to let anyone make, apps without having the app store.
Well, here's another example.
But another thing we could do is for the government to take some of the technological things, right, that these companies do and turn them into utilities.
You know what, my guy? That's exactly what I was going to suggest. Because my example,
instead of Facebook being some company like private ass company, it's like no, as a social network, that's a utility. The end.
Well, it's the biggest.
Now anyone can make a social network app that connects to the government photo stream, whatever.
Now, maybe you can make your own, but they can't get above a certain size.
And it might not even have, and people who are worried about government censorship and government spying and those things. And you're right. The government doesn't have to actually run the utility, just like,
it has to enforce interoperability.
Right. It's like the government doesn't run the phone network or the power grid directly.
I think they should.
They should. But, they could just be like, hey, here are the rules for power grid. Facebook, you are now no different than Con Edison, basically.
Here's a better example, because social networks get tricky in a hurry, but the example I was going to use, I was leading you to this, was say we had to break up Google. Google does a lot of really critical things for modern society. Like, for example, Google Maps.
Search engine, the main thing, Google Maps.
Google Maps could not make money. Google Maps cannot make money except by advertising and nonsense.
Yeah.
Google Maps by itself could not succeed.
If Google Maps became maps.gov,
but you want to know the only thing worse than Google Maps being the monopoly?
It wouldn't have restaurant reviews and ads on it. It would just be great maps with great directions.
Do you remember what it was like back when you had to go to MapQuest or nothing?
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, Google Maps is the kind of thing that I think should be a service provided by the federal government. Like that.
I think that should actually not even be something provided by the federal government. I think that should be like a cooperation between all world governments to provide a world map service. Right. Of course, the only problem there that you would get into.
Well, the only is going to be a real big problem.
Would be many of the borders drawn perhaps around Kashmir or China on this world map.
Yep.
Right. There are disputes about what the world map
it'll be
looks
worse.
like.
Some countries wouldn't want to display gay bars. Like, there'd be shit like that would happen. You can't let's stay away from making this global.
I'm just saying.
The one thing I've stuck by.
That would still be the right answer in principle.
But the reality is, and even in this era of the rise of fascism and the fucked up Trump world that we're like this hellscape, I still think that the only thing worse than the United States being the primary regulator of the internet is literally any other country getting that power. That is why I'm kind of looking at a U.S.-focused initiative here. Because if the U.S. does something or the EU does something, all the megacorps have to play ball. They cannot leave those markets.
You could.
Yeah, China. There is a Chinese market that could rival that. There really aren't other markets that are big enough, I don't think.
Don't be big then. Be small.
Yeah, but what do you want? You want to have Google Maps that only works in the U.S. and then go to Japan? You got to get the Japanese government app that sucks and is different. I don't think that's going to work. Google Maps, I guess I want there to be an ecosystem where something as good as Google Maps can exist and is funded not through consumers paying for it and not through advertising and not through data mining. The only other option there is a government service or a government subsidized service provided with rules and regulations by private companies.
Or, I mean, the other thing is people don't really think out of the box, right? It's like,
I think we're thinking out of the box. I just said the government should take over Google Maps and make it a utility.
No, he isn't even, right? For example, right? How about this? The government goes and takes all the source code and all the, Google Maps, right? And then just fucking hands it out. So now anyone can run a Google Maps now. Now there's Google Maps is all over the fucking place.
I don't think that would work. Which one are you using?
No, I'm just saying, just fucking, it's like if suddenly these things that are the only thing that is keeping
the only thing that's keeping that data accurate is Google having a massive engine that's going out and collecting all the data.
I'm aware of that, but I'm saying is that a
static snapshot of Google Maps data is worthless within a week.
I'm not saying you're thinking too, right? No reason that we can't force these things to be open, right? It's
you
could just, right? We could take OS X and be like, you know what, Apple? Not only do you have to keep developing this, but also
why should they unless we're paying them to do it?
We just force them.
What do you mean force them? The
government can write any law. The law can say
Scott,
almost anything.
The government cannot write laws that force people into conscripted labor.
How will it's not conscripted labor?
If
it's just saying if you want your company to continue to engage in commerce, we are the Congress who has the unlimited ability to regulate commerce. Anyone who makes an operating system must open source it completely at all times. How about that law? Anyone who makes a mapping system must make all their map data completely public at all times. Anyone who makes a search engine must keep their entire search index and its algorithm and everything open source at all times.
So, Scott, you could
Anyone who makes any sort of computer protocol or API must have it fully documented and available to the public at all times. Fuck you.
So you could make a law like that.
You could write literally anything.
Scott, if I had a small company that made mapping software and that law existed, I would just shut the company down.
Sure, go ahead.
I think every company would shut down.
If you have a bookstore, if you have a store online, where you allow, all right, you can just be like, boom, any kind of crazy thing you can come up with, just force all these companies, if you, let's see, well, how can we destroy Oz with a crazy law? See, the point is you got to get creative.
But Scott, my point is, the goal isn't just
if you
break up the power of these
device
companies.
If you make a hardware device of any kind, you must provide all customers with the unlimited ability to have any replacement parts, full schematics to repair it on their own, full documentation of all software included, right? Full documentation on all protocols, radio signals, how to so that people can make their own accessories with no limit whatsoever.
What if I'm making highly specialized medical stuff for one particular realm?
Even more reason to provide full documentation to all patients, doctors.
All right,
customers.
So what if that tiny weird niche ecosystem is already on such a thin margin that if you were required to do the extra work to open source it and document it, you might as well just go out of business instead. And now there's nothing.
I think that's a bunch of bullshit.
I think things like that will happen.
They're making plenty of money. Also, if you're talking about medical stuff, no medical business should be able to be for profit. Period.
Oh, I agree with that.
Right. So therefore, just fucking do it.
But I'm saying that some of the ideas you came up with around, say, Google Maps would just cause companies to stop making maps full stop.
No, deal with it.
So I think a better solution is to either...
If we don't have capitalism, then there's incentives besides to do
yes,
things.
But a
profit.
moderate middle ground would be, imagine if the government said, there's going to be a government map, we are going to basically eminent domain Google Maps. Google has to keep maintaining it, but the government will pay Google.
How can you... you're going to pay... Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Why are you keeping your capitalism around with your paying?
What is paying? Who said capital? Paying is just effectively providing the materials to make the thing happen.
I don't think government money should go to some private Google company. I think we just take it.
I feel like there is a balance between the two because
fuck 'em.
if the government just takes it.
You had your chance to be not evil, and then you got rid of your don't be evil rule. Because you're evil, we can fuck you.
The
if
problem is,
if you were good, we wouldn't have to fuck you.
You got to live in the reality of government, which means that the government, the way it's currently structured, unless we completely restructure the government, which I know we both have thoughts on that too, not really the topic of this show, there is no way to hire the kinds of people you would need to continue to make that software good.
Another thing is, just...
The government could use someone like me. The government, in fact, I make more money than I would legally be allowed to make pretty much anywhere in the federal government. So unless you destroy the entire private sector, people like me would never work for a government.
You also, the other evil things the big tech companies do, like privacy invading. I think that like CEOs should just go to jail for that.
Scott, that's actually, if you read GDPR...
it has the non-enforced
like
GDPR.
What it does. What do you mean non-enforced? It is enforced fairly well.
No, so what I was reading about the GDPR in Europe is that Ireland is in charge of enforcing it.
Yep.
And they basically have taken no actions basically against any big tech companies because they're all like keeping their using Ireland as their tax haven. It's like this big scam going
There's a little more to it than that.
And they're
probably.
there's a lot of GDPR violations going on at the big tech companies, and no one's doing anything about it.
Yeah, but for now, stay tuned.
It's Ireland's job to do it.
All I would say is stay tuned on that because there was sort of a, again, I'm not a lawyer, but there was sort of an agreement that there would be a slow ramp up of enforcement because the actual fines and punishments described in the law are terrifying in how extreme they are.
Good.
Like they're actually pretty cool. They're based on the gross revenue of the company that does the violation.
That's right.
So a little company, it's Iron Monkey style. If Google messes up, they owe billions. Where if GeekNights messes up, we owe what? I'd owe like 20% of our gross revenue, which would come down to like under $1,000. So,
right. I basically think it's like the if you're that big.
I mean, the GeekNights forum is in no way GDPR compliant.
If you're that big and you have that much money, you have no excuse not to fuck up, right? So if you do fuck up, you shouldn't even get like 3 strikes. You should just be punished in a devastating manner.
But I'm
right?
saying the approach to this, I think what we need, like the practical way to solve this problem, is to have the United States Senate back once it's under the control of the Democratic Party again.
When will that happen?
While
you're alive?
Either in 2020 or I'm probably leaving the country. So. But we need to actually pass a few laws.
I didn't know the numbers are there for 2020.
You only need to get to 50.
Uh-huh.
That's literally all you need because if you get the presidency, then you also have the tie-breaking vote.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty close there.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we need to pass some basic laws to rein in the extreme power of a handful of existing tech companies. And I feel like that is achievable in the next decade. Amazon, Google, Facebook, there's a really short list of companies that need to be very broadly broken up into broad sector companies.
Right.
Even that would buy us a lot. Another way to go, and this is sort of like the crazy talk alternative if we're looking out of the box, is those companies should pick a side and use their billions to fix society and solve the problems that are being caused by these monopolies such that the government leaves them alone because they actually funded the solution.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like...
Monopolies are tolerated if they serve the public good. Look at the sports exemptions. All Major League sports are exempted from all antitrust laws.
Yeah, because having more than one sports league is stupid.
Yes, so in some
having
technology...
more than one search engine is sort of similarly stupid.
Yes, so in some technology areas, there are definitely spaces where it makes sense to have one company that is monopoly, but we need heavy rules and regulations regulating that industry and that company, and we need the government to pass those laws. I feel like the big tech companies, the best thing to do would be to lobby and take over the government enough to force those changes so they can maintain their monopoly status, but get appropriate regulations on top of themselves before we just bust them up because we hit Mad Max post-capitalism.
Anyway.
We're not lawyers or politicians.
It's interesting how this was like this kind of talk was like non-existent, non-existent talk.
Why do you think we've officially endorsed Elizabeth Warren for the U.S. presidency?
It's like only among the craziest of nerds like us was this talk, and now lately it's become like the amount of this talk is like increasing. It's still not huge, right? You're still not seeing this all people talking about this all over the place, right? It's not like at the level of, say...
Well, also, it's complicated.
It's not at the level of like gun control where everyone talks about it.
I
right?
was And
But-
still am very much against a lot of the things that the EU was trying to do to Microsoft. I didn't think it was necessarily...
Well, because a lot of times they're doing stuff just because they're trying to attack
They're like,
the
oh,
US.
you can't bundle your web browser anymore.
You don't see them
All right,
attacking-
jackass,
they weren't
how do I
attacking-
download Chrome if I don't have a web browser?
They weren't attacking European companies, right?
Yeah.
That's just, sort of, commercial war kind of situation, right?
Yep.
Economic warfare.
It's a very complex situation, but the fundamental problem remains. There is a small number of companies that have terrifying amounts of money and terrifying amounts of power over the global infrastructure and society.
They're too few and they are too big, and therefore they must be destroyed or forced to not be too big.
Yep, but the details of how we do that are very complex and probably involve drastically reorienting not just these companies, but the U.S. federal government as a whole.
Or our entire society.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's funny how we're like, all the sci-fi cyberpunk books were like, oh yeah, Snow Crash, the world where it's just corporations everywhere that run everything. It's like, guys, how many times when someone writes a sci-fi book, you're not supposed to try to make it come true? I should write a sci-fi book.
Yeah.
And then hopefully people will try to make that come true instead. I'll write one where it's like, everything.
Yeah, I don't want to live in
great.
Blade Runner or The Fifth Element or, well...
It's like when they wrote 1984, they wrote all these books, they were trying to make those things not happen, and everyone's all like, oh, look how all the things everyone wrote is happening. It's because you're trying to make it happen, dumbass.
See, at least Shadowrun, while yes, we have the
Yeah, how
corporate...
come Shadowrun's not happening?
At least Shadowrun, one, yeah, you have a Megacorp dystopia.
Where's my
but
dragon
two,
president?
we got
Dragon
dragons and elves and magic.
Dragon President would fix this shit so fast.
Yeah, you know what? That's why they assassnated him
They
right
assassinated him
away.
before he could do anything.
Yeah, 'cause
he
they
was
knew
gonna-
better.
He was going to fix it all.
Gotta be a spirit. You can't be no ghost.
Uh-huh.
All right, I think we've talked long enough about this.
Okay, good.